Donald Trump is coming to the UK. The red carpet is due to be rolled out for Donald Trump and his wife Melania between the 17th and 19th of September here in the UK. They'll be staying at Windsor Castle, meaning they are nice and close to Legoland, and presumably will be doing most of the traditional things that one does when one does a state visit to the UK, apart from addressing Parliament, which has proven a little bit controversial, but we will come back to that lately. Okay, let's roll this back to the very beginning. So a state visit is more than just kind of a head of state going to a different country. It is a kind of official visit with all of the pomp and circumstance that one would expect to go along with that. If it is like any other such event, we will be expecting speeches, parades, banquets. In particular, a lot of engagement between Donald Trump and the King and Queen, who Donald Trump's like a big fan of, right? He likes tacky nonsense, and therefore the royal family is right up his street. In fact, kind of by way of example, Emmanuel Macron was in the UK for a state visit of his own just 2 weeks ago. State visits at the moment are happening at Windsor for the real reason that Buckingham Palace is being renovated at the moment, although that seems to have worked out quite well for Trump's visit, given that, as we'll discuss in a minute, it does appear as though Keir Starmer or the King or whoever else it might be is keen to avoid too much controversy with it. But you can kind of see the kind of thing that goes on, lots of sort of parading around the troops and inspecting the troops, staying in Windsor Castle. I mean, I would say that of all of the countries in the world, it's the kind of thing that the UK is geared up for pretty well, right? We not only have a quote-unquote apolitical, we won't get into that now, head of state, but we have like castles that they can be held in. We can kind of do that stuff pretty good. Broadly speaking, it's about there usually are kind of meetings at these events. So when Trump came last time around, he was here. The kind of official thing he discussed whilst he was here was a trade deal between the US and the UK. One of the controversies being that it involved healthcare, and people get understandably a bit tetchy when the US government wants to talk about healthcare being involved in trade deals, because people often are cautious about what that means for the NHS and the opening up of NHS services to private healthcare, etc., etc., etc. But heads of state will visit the UK or other countries for various reasons. The thing that really sets apart a state visit is that it's like the pomp and circumstance is part of the point, as much as any actual proper conversations they're having. This is Macron presumably going to visit that. And a second ago, that was him at Westminster Abbey, where he will very likely have gone to visit the tomb of the unknown warrior, which is a thing that heads of state tend to do when they go to other countries. One thing that Macron did get to do, which, spoiler alert, is something we'll come back to because it's proven a little bit controversial, is that Macron did get to address the UK Parliament. So one of the things that often happens is that members of both houses of Parliament, I don't know if there's a wide shot we can find here, so members of both the House of Commons and the House of Lords kind of gather in one of the larger spaces within Parliament, and the foreign head of state who is visiting is given the opportunity to address them with some words, usually the kind of stuff where it's like, our two countries have a relationship which goes back many hundreds of years, and it's an honour to stand here in the mother of all parliaments and to talk about how brilliant our relationship will be going forwards. We'll get to the controversy of why this has been a bit particular bone to pick shortly. I mean, when Barack Obama came to visit back in, maybe this will tell me, 2011, so during his, only that been during his first term, but no. All of the stops got rolled out for Barack Obama. He, in fact, did his address to both houses of Parliament in Westminster Hall, which is kind of like a big deal. That's not a space that constantly has events going on in it. It's where it's both where King Charles I had his trial and where Queen Elizabeth II lay in state.
Prime Minister, my lords and members of the House of Commons, I have known few greater honors than the opportunity to address the Mother of Parliaments.
And just to clarify, Barack, I don't like to jump in to correct Barack Obama, but describing the UK Parliament as the Mother of Parliament is like a famous foible, because actually England, the country, in the original kind of saying, England is the Mother of Parliaments, having sort of produced the concept of a parliament, rather than, as often gets misspoken, the UK Parliament being the Mother of Parliaments, having birthed other parliaments. So, rookie error there, Barack Obama.
Westminster Hall. I am told that the last 3 speakers here have been the Pope, Her Majesty the Queen, and Nelson Mandela, which is either a very high bar or the beginning of a very funny joke.
He's we were speaking on stream recently about Mamdani and about how depressingly I think the way to be a successful politician is actually just to be quite charismatic, which I think Barack Obama proves as much as anyone else. But as you can see from this one, it is this real opportunity to... Oh, goodness, let's get David Cameron off the screen. It's a big moment to be able to address Parliament. The UK is not as powerful as it once was. However, speaking to the UK Parliament is, seen by many politicians, because they're people who have knowledge of the history of politics. It seems a sort of honour, I guess, in some way. But what makes this visit particularly notable is that we saw Barack Obama there giving his address to Parliament during his state visit. Barack Obama, like any other US president who has done a state visit, only ever did one. And the way in which this is being billed as an unprecedented trip is that Trump will be on his second. And how much this actually matters, and how much this is just a way of, the media presenting something as super duper notable, is maybe up for question. However, it is very true that no other president of the United States has been afforded the opportunity to have 2 state visits. And so, it's quite the olive branch to Donald Trump, particularly given that a lot of the front bench politicians in the UK at the moment, and even the King, right? There's a photo of King Charles and Donald Trump here. If there's one thing King Charles III is really into, it's the environment. And Donald Trump pulled his country out of the Paris Climate Agreement, right? So, it is something of a it isn't something of an olive branch, I guess, to a president who many of these politicians and dignitaries, let's be honest, probably don't actually like that much. And some of you may or may not remember Keir Starmer giving the invite to Trump. So some of you might remember there was a bunch of different visits to the US by foreign politicians a little while back. Keir Starmer visited the day before the big bust up with Zelensky. And this was at a point where Donald Trump was kind of threatening just to full on pull out of Ukraine. And Keir Starmer was kind of there as the delegate from Western countries that wanted America to still be involved in Ukraine, to try and like get him on side, I guess, play Mr. Nice Guy. And one of the things that Starmer did, in like a really just openly like, I need to get this guy on side, was to pull out an invite to a state visit. Let's quickly watch the footage back.
My pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sent his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you.
So they've been like, yeah, oh, say hi to Big DT from me.
So can I present a letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will.
It's actually a great moment, I think. Like, it's real sort of, you've given a birthday card with a voucher in it to a child like 2 days before their birthday, and they're like, do I have to wait until my birthday to open it, or can I open it like now? What's going on?
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great gentleman.
Oh, the whole thing's so awkward. Just the silence.
Oh, that's well. Well, that is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. Otherwise, it's...
That's funny. I like, you don't have to like the guy, but sometimes he is intentionally funny.
Not quite as meaningful. It is, and that's quite a signature, isn't it? Beautiful. He's a beautiful man, a wonderful man, and we appreciate it. I've known him, gotten to know him very well, actually.
Yeah.
First term and now second term. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph...
Yeah, so...
Oh, he totally turns it round as well, that it's like he's the child, and then it's like, do you want to say what it is? Do you want to make sure everyone knows what it is?
This is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolizes...
Do you know what it's like? It's like if you brought a child... Okay, so you've got a child and like a nephew or something, and the nephew's really into Spider-Man. Wow, we've gone really just like very, very gender normative with this one. You've got a nephew who's really into Spider-Man, and so you've gone out and you've bought like a first printing of a famous Spider-Man comic, and then you've given it to your nephew, and then you kind of have to do the backstory because he's not going to instantly recognize that it's like a really special Spider-Man comic. So you have to go, so before you open that, so this is actually a first, like you have to kind of do do the additional bit, you know?
Realizes the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success.
It was.
His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic.
He's polishing the brass right now. That sounded a bit blue.
Unprecedented second
That's a
state
great-
visit, and he
great
wants
honor.
to talk that through with you.
And that says at Windsor. That's
Yes.
really something.
Yes. What I haven't got yet is your answer.
That's the sound of disappointment there. Because Windsor's clearly not as cool as Buckingham Palace.
I do need to.
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King. And
It would have been incredible if he'd have been like, I'll think about it. Also, for context, this happened. So this happened one day, and everyone in the British press was like, "What a masterstroke from our boy Keir Starmer! Didn't he do? Oh, he negotiated with Donald Trump so well, and then as the cherry on the cake, he pulled out this letter. He's brought Donald Trump to heel, to like get him back in Ukraine, and then he's charmed him with this letter. And then the day after was Donald Trump and all his kind of lackeys ganging up on Zelensky, and it was a real just like, I'll call it. Actually, no, it meant nothing. It meant nothing. And so sort of Keir Starmer has sort of suggested there that the previous state visit had been this massive success. And I'm not entirely sure that's maybe the fairest way to put it. I think it was fine. However, there was plenty of controversy boiled up in it. Some of it on the UK side, some of it on Trump's side, and a lot of it, the kind of controversy that feels like it has echoes, or sometimes whatever the opposite of an echo is, this time round. Yeah, Argonian Bum mentioned in the chat, Trump kind of not being very good at the pomp and circumstance aspect of everything. So like walking in front of the Queen, which I'm going to say, she's not like a magical lady. I think you should like. I don't care if people don't, you know, just to clarify, I'm not gonna get too deep into Donald Trump for not obeying the archaic rules of how to treat the special magic family. But I guess in a if you're the sort of person that likes to analyze state events for how well someone did politics, he walked in front of the Queen, and that's like disrespectful or whatever. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, it's rude. But I don't like people being rude. I don't care about I don't care about royal protocol. There was also, as I mentioned earlier, there were also kind of trade negotiations which involved the US, which happened whilst he was here. Again, that's often like quite a minor part of state visits. It really is all about the kind of pomp and circumstance of it all. But I was sort of digging stuff up in preparation for this segment. The response to the trip was, and some of you that remember it might remember, like, was actually quite strong, right? So in April, which was sort of before the trip actually took place, I think it happened in June, but when the trip was first being discussed, a bunch of members of Parliament backed what's called an early day motion. So this is a kind of motion that you can pass in Parliament that any MP can introduce, and then people can decide to back it or not. And rather than sort of passing a law, it's generally sort of making a statement. So sometimes it might be you introduce an early day motion which is in support of the banana industry. And rather than any actual kind of material support for the banana industry, it just sort of says, this house loves bananas, can't get enough of them, bunches and bunches every day. We really back British banana. That's not a thing, is it? That's not a thing. The British banana importers, we've got you. And 106 members of parliament backed a early day motion which said that this house deplores the record of US President Donald Trump, including his misogynism. I've never heard that misogyny kind of phrased in that way before. Racism and xenophobia. Condemns his previous comments on women, refugees and torture. Further condemns his lack of action on climate change and failure to support the Paris climate change deal. Further deplores his sharing of online content related to a far-right extremist organisation in the UK. Deprecates his comments about the Mayor of London. Notes previous motions and debates in the House, including on the withholding of the honour of a joint addresses to the Houses of Parliament. Further notes the historical significance and honour that comes with the choice to offer a full state visit to an individual, and calls on the Prime Minister and the government to rescind the advice to offer a full state visit to President Trump. Which is, pretty strong. But also, when you look down the list, there are people on there who are now like front benchers in government who are going to be in some way involved in this visit. It was not just like the hard left or whatever that were backing this. It was quite a few within the sort of soft left and the kind of centre-right aspect of the Labour Party as well. We have Angela Eagle. We have Wes Streeting, who's currently the health secretary. We have, who else do we have? With Jess Phillips. We have real, I don't know if Starmer backed it. I'll have a little look. Owen Smith, remember Owen Smith? Who did go back to being a lobbyist for the health industry as soon as he didn't become leader of thing. Annalise Dodds, who was briefly transferred to the Exchequer and is still, reasonably high up in the Labour Party, which is quite the distinction from this time around, where there hasn't been the same response to the visit. Partly, maybe that's because Starmer is the one reaching out and offering it. Partly, that's a reflection of the global response to Trump number 2, in that a lot of sort of centrist politicians, embracing their pragmatism, are like, yeah, we're just going to work with this guy now. We've backed down from the idea that he's this horrible racist monster, and we're gonna roll with it. And in fact, Trump also invited controversy on his way to the UK for that trip, or at least just before. He decided to tweet at Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London. And Sadiq Khan, just to clarify, is a real right-wing boogeyman in the UK, and then kind of because of that elsewhere in the world, largely for the reason that he's a brown Muslim man who is the mayor of London. And that is kind of deemed to be completely unacceptable. And so he kind of becomes, for right-wingers across the country, he becomes this figure of hate because he is just like a prominent Muslim politician, and therefore is someone they can attract, sort of concentrate their ire on, I guess. So you get people who live nowhere near London, never go there, who are like, oh, London's not what it used to be. You can't even go there these days without getting your arms stolen. And so just before he gets to London the first time, this is a wild decision. This is like, I don't know. This is like doing a Facebook post about how much you hate someone just before you go to their birthday party in their house. He goes, at Sadiq Khan, who by all accounts has done a terrible job as mayor of London, has been foolishly nasty to the visiting president of the United States, which is funny because that's him, and he's sort of talking about himself in third person. By far the most important ally of the United Kingdom. He is a stone-cold loser who should focus on crime in London, not me. Khan reminds me very much of our very dumb and incompetent mayor of NYC, de Blasio, who has also done a terrible job, only half his height. In any event, I look forward to being a great friend to the United Kingdom, and I'm looking very much forward to my visit. Landing now! And the sort of the impetus for this was that Sadiq Khan had allowed a bunch of anti-Trump protests to go ahead whilst Trump was here. The most sort of notable and maybe memorable being the inflation of a sort of big blimp which depicted Donald Trump as a massive baby. Though I will say, when they were first discussing this, I definitely imagined it being bigger. I don't know why, but you know when you're just like, that's actually smaller than I thought it was going to be. Which I can't remember who was involved in this. Like, it feels pretty libbed up to me. This feels like it would be Steve Bray, the anti-Brexit shouting guy, or maybe is it led by donkeys? Maybe this was led by donkeys. I don't know. He's now said it was old news, but he'd previously, David Lammy had previously called Donald Trump a tyrant and a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathizing sociopath. And now he has to just be like, cheers for being here, man. We would love to have greater relations with you. Which I mean is a sort of fantastic sign of the massive liberal climb down on Trump, particularly in the UK, but also maybe in other countries as well, where that kind of opposition to Trump 1 has rescinded into this total acceptance. And I mean, if we look at Keir Starmer handing over that letter to Trump, a real sycophancy around him instead. But there does seem to be an attempt to avoid too much controversy this time round too. So I mentioned a moment ago that Trump will be staying in Windsor, which Macron did as well, just to clarify. Buckingham Palace is currently undergoing renovation, so it probably wasn't an option to stay in Buckingham Palace either. However, conveniently, Windsor Castle is right on the outskirts of London, right? This is sort of central London all the way over here. It is in fields. And in fact, it's the same side as Heathrow Airport. So presumably what will happen is Trump will fly into Heathrow and then he will have a very short journey to get to Windsor Castle. I would imagine he will go into central London. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a visit to Tomb of the Unknown Warrior, if there wasn't some formal events that happen in the capital itself. However, it does keep him outside of the city as much as is possible. The other sort of controversial aspect of things is that he won't be addressing Parliament, as we saw Emmanuel Macron and Barack Obama doing earlier. The visit has been scheduled for the summer, and been scheduled sort of just after the UK Parliament goes into recess, so basically has its holiday, which means that, there's not the opportunity for him to address Parliament. Oh dear, that is unfortunate, isn't it? And Nigel Farage has come out a couple of days ago, very angry about this, to oppose it. He posted this video to Twitter yesterday afternoon, which I will say, So Nigel Farage just started posting videos to Twitter in front of this exceptionally corporate background, which I can't work out whether that's an actual wall they have somewhere, or my feeling is that this is green screened. Like, it looks possibly too flat to be an actual kind of painted display that they've got somewhere. And it's just super corporate, and it does kind of give the impression that Nigel Farage is about to lay you off. But let's see what Nigel Farage had to say.
So Donald Trump is coming on a second state visit. He'll be here from the 17th to the 19th of September. But here's the funny thing. Parliament rises on the 16th, so he won't be asked to address the joint Houses of Parliament, as Ronald Reagan did, as Obama did, as Clinton did. No, he's going to be put down at Windsor Castle and won't do any...
He's going to be put down?
front-facing events. Just compare that to President Macron of France last week, who was treated like a conquering emperor. Open carriage rides in Windsor, addressing both Houses of Parliament, and then he lectured us, he was damn rude actually, he lectured us about why it was wrong to vote for Brexit. Why does Keir Starmer think that the French president is a better friend to this country than the American president? He's got it completely wrong. I believe Parliament should be recalled and Trump should be given the opportunity to address both houses. That's the least we can do with our American friends, without whom our country is defenseless.
Such a last line. Like, he's definitely patriotic, Nigel Farage. Sometimes to the UK, mostly to America. There is something fascinating about this, because I can see why Nigel Farage wants to make political capital out of this. He thinks there is a big overlap between his support and Trump's support. I don't necessarily know whether that's true or not. I think there is some crossover, but I think there are actually a lot of people who would vote for reform in the UK but would see Trump as being sort of a kind of silly figure, regardless of how similar or different their politics actually are. But I can see why Nigel Farage wants to kind of make political capital out of this. But my assumption would be that, so Not Another Gamer in the chat has just been saying about how actually Labour's quite keen to kiss Trump's ass as much as possible. My assumption would be that they're actually doing a lot of this to protect Trump, right? They don't think it is great for the UK if there's lots of people out protesting Donald Trump, but if he does a whole load of stuff in central London, there will be a lot of people out protesting Donald Trump, and the sum of that is going to be unavoidable. If he addresses Parliament, yeah, maybe some MPs do kick off about it, and there is some kind of, and it's embarrassing because like something happens whilst he's doing that address, or they have to bar some MPs from being present because they think they're going to shout him down or whatever, and then that becomes embarrassing in and of itself because, having the US president over, but then you've barred some members of Parliament from Parliament to do that. That doesn't look great either. Also, Donald Trump is like often charismatic in conversations. He's not an orator who can do a 20-minute speech to Parliament and for it to sort of come across well. So they probably also want to avoid Donald Trump addressing Parliament, and it's the most boring, rubbish speech ever because he doesn't have his sycophantic crowd in there to cheer everything he says. They probably also want to avoid him doing, some of you will remember J.D. Vance doing his speech at the Munich Security Conference some months ago, where Vance used it as this opportunity to be like, America is strong, Europe is weak, you've got there's no free speech here, and it was just this absolute berating of Europe, sort of culture warsy stuff, which kind of made the whole event look a bit silly. And also, Starmer and co. won't want that to happen in the UK. Starmer does not have the kind of personality where if Trump gets up and goes like, the UK sucks, I hate it, there's no free speech under Keir Starmer's terrible leadership, and I hate Sadiq Khan, and Tommy Robinson should be Prime Minister, like that's going to look terrible, probably for both Trump and for Parliament. And so while Farage is complaining about all of this stuff, I imagine they've done quite a lot of it to try and give Trump a really positive experience. But it'll be interesting to see how many of those protests, etc., are repeated once again when Trump comes in the summer. Thank you so much for watching this clip from one of my Monday night live streams. If you would like to watch more of these clips, but do so both ad and sponsor free, then you can find out how to do so over on Nebula by going to my personal link, go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas. You've possibly heard me talk about Nebula before, or maybe one of the other creators that's on there. It's a premium streaming service that we've been building for a number of years now, and the goal is to make us less reliant on third-party, unpredictable platforms like YouTube. Not only does Nebula allow you to watch our videos ad and sponsor free, it's also home to a growing catalogue of exclusive videos and TV series and films too, such as my debut feature-length film Boomers and my Nebula exclusive class, How to Research Like a PhD Student, where I tell you a little bit about how I go about the research which goes into both these live shows and also my regular videos over on my main channel. At the same time, Nebula also pays us much more per view than YouTube does, and we get a little kickback for everybody that we sign up, which means that by watching over on Nebula, you really are helping to support the work that my team and I do, both on these live shows and these clips, but also on the main channel videos as well. Better still, if you sign up using my personal link, you'll get 40% off an annual plan, which brings the price down to just $3 a month, which is far and away the cheapest streaming service you will sign up to, and it has no hidden tricks or scams at all, no uplift for no ads or 4K or anything. It is just streaming all day long. That link is go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas. Thanks so much for watching once again, and I'll see you over on Nebula.